Hello everyone, my name's Adam Vox, and in this video I'm going to talk about the top 5 things that people are probably going to complain about on YouTube about Call of Duty 4 with the remaster. Infinity Ward is giving us Call of Duty 4 Remastered, at least on the PS4 as far as we know, alongside Infinity Warfare, or Infinite Warfare, not Infinity, there's no Y there, it's Infinite Warfare. And a lot of people who are excited for this honestly haven't put a lot of time into this game, and a lot of the overall target audience may not have ever played Call of Duty 4 in the first place, and Call of Duty 4 never had an entirely huge presence on YouTube because Call of Duty 4 was super popular at the very early stages of YouTube. But we're currently in a gaming culture, which I'll touch on after the list, in which people call pretty much everything they can in a game OP or overpowered, and thus demand that it be changed. And Call of Duty 4 was a game that never really changed much over time, and that became part of its charm. And so I'm going to talk about the top 5 things in no particular order that I think people are going to complain about, whine about, and demand be changed, even though that was part of the original game. So I have a conceptual thing, a weapon, and then 3 perks, actually, because perks are where things started to get really crazy with the Call of Duty franchise. So, starting with the weapon, the M16, of course, is what's considered the staple gun of Call of Duty 4. It was, to some, the most overpowered gun in Call of Duty, or an overpowered gun, or just the best gun in the game. There are plenty of games, or guns in this game that people consider to be quote-unquote overpowered, but by having such a large list, the guns are, by definition, not overpowered, because they're all balanced. The same thing applies to the M16. It was arguably the best gun for a slow, mid-range gameplay style, but if that wasn't your gameplay style, the gun was pretty much useless to you, and it was by no means overpowered in every situation, but it's one gun that people might start to complain about too many people using, and we'll see a similar thing to Modern Warfare 2 times when people just complained about guns being overused rather than overpowered, which is a very silly complaint in my opinion. Next up we have the perks. We have Martyrdom, Last Stand, and 3 times Frag. These are all various perks that you can get for your 3 slots of your perks for your custom classes. Martyrdom drops a live grenade when you die. That means that when someone shoots you, a grenade drops and you have a chance of killing 1 or more people with it. This is kind of a crazy perk, and depending on what map you're on and how big your server is on, given that I'm from a PC perspective and there are often servers with a bajillion people on it, in which often though Martyrdom is actually banned on the servers and you can't even enable it, but this can be pretty frustrating to run into. If you're killing someone and run over them and you didn't know they had Martyrdom on and there's a live grenade, you're going to die. It can be ever so slightly frustrating, but at the same time, this is not a game that focuses super heavily on the SMGs like modern shooters or like modern Call of Duties. This is a game that had a lot of long and mid-range engagements, and thus Martyrdom honestly wasn't even super effective other than on a few of the super close quarters maps. In my opinion, it'll stay well balanced as long as the 10 out of the 20 maps that we're getting include the long range ones, but on a map like Shipment or Vacant, you might potentially run into some issues. Last Stand was a perk that allowed you to, instead of immediately dying, as long as you didn't get hit by a headshot or enough damage overall, such as from an airstrike, you could actually drop down and go prone, pull out your pistol, and have what's called a Last Stand, and have a chance to still pick off your enemy or a couple enemies with your pistol before you die. You still die at the end of the engagement. This can be annoying, however, it kind of promotes headshot-focused gameplay, which was already something that people focused on with Call of Duty 4 anyway, and like I said, big explosions or just enough damage in general will prevent the Last Stand from happening, and overall, it can be kind of frustrating to shoot someone and then get picked off by them when they have their pistol out, because you can spam the pistol in Call of Duty 4 very quickly and get picked off by them. What's the most frustrating part about this is that it isn't even like the perk itself or like the player using it being able to kill you, but rather if someone else kills that person that was in Last Stand, like say you were shooting them from afar and they dropped down into Last Stand behind cover and you couldn't really get to them, and I've had this happen a million times, and I'm making my way over to them, and then suddenly someone else kills them and you only get an assist. Scaling score for assists or for how much damage you did to someone when someone else kills them was not a thing in this game. And so if someone else picked off that guy who was in Last Stand, who you'd spent all that time shooting, they got the credit and you just got a minor assist. And so that's what can get kind of frustrating if you're working towards your kill streak, but all in all, since you only have 3 kill streaks, it's not a big deal. Lastly, we have what's probably, well not lastly, but lastly of the perks, we have what's probably the most annoying perk in the game, which is 3 times frag. Yes, there is a perk that that gives you 3 frag grenades instead of just 1. I believe this is the only Call of Duty game that this perk was in, and it was very quickly banned from most servers that I've played on PC, and it was very quickly a very complained about perk. But it lets you have 3 frag grenades in exchange for not having the skill bonuses that many of the other perks, gave you. And in my opinion, the trade-off was always well worth it to get the skill bonuses, such as, I don't remember exactly what perk slot it is, but you have the stopping power, which does more damage, but then you don't get like mobility features. You have deep impact, which allows you to shoot through walls more at the sacrifice of some of the other ones on that one. It's always a trade-off with the perks in this game, and the same thing with 3 times frag. And as someone, yes, it can be annoying. You can run into issues where people are just spamming grenades everywhere, and that can make a map, again, especially on a close quarters map, it can make a match very unfun. But overall, as long as the community knows that it's crap and it's only a few bad eggs in the basket using it and abusing it, it shouldn't be too big of a deal. Lastly, we have the concept that your kill streaks, if you use them after you die, actually earn progress towards your next set of kill streaks, which means if I die after I earned a helicopter, because it's 357 UAV airstrike helicopter, if you die, then use your helicopter, and it gets 7 kills, then you just earned yourself a new helicopter. Now, this is ever so slightly annoying, and they did change this in future Modern Warfares, at least. I don't know if it was still that way in World at War. I never had a problem with it, and in fact, some of my most favorite matches that I've ever played in Call of Duty 4 involved me using my score streaks to then get more score streaks. Call of Duty 4 was never a game that encouraged camping due to the movement mechanics. Like, you could camp, but it was very rewarding and very easy to then go and pick off the camper in most situations. And so it was more about running around and just killing people and being happy that you had your score streaks. Now, helicopters can be taken out by RPGs, but RPGs do not lock on, and they are very impossible to aim, really. The rockets shoot in all sorts of directions. It's not the best thing in the world, but I don't honestly know that it should change, because that's how the game's always worked, and using your airstrike to get you your credit towards your helicopter was always very rewarding, and I don't see it being a big deal. Like, when you have as many kill streaks as you have in Modern Warfare 2, then yeah, it's a problem, but when you only have the 3 in Call of Duty 4, I don't see it being a big deal. But overall, like I said at the beginning, we have developed a culture around Call of Duty and most first-person shooters where suddenly everything is overpowered. Call of Duty changed very little from its launch multiplayer metagame to now, on the original release of it, and that anything that may have been considered quote-unquote imbalanced became part of its charm, became part of its character, and while it may not be a perfect game, it was still an enjoyable game, and I'd hate to see that changed. And in contrast, we have games like Modern Warfare 2 and some of the Halo titles and things like that, where the game's meta, the way the weapons worked, changes drastically, almost from month to month for the first few months after launch, as they struggle to balance everything to people's random rants about weapons on Twitter. I don't think this should impact Call of Duty 4. I think if Raven is going to give us Call of Duty 4 Remastered with multiplayer, it needs to be the same multiplayer just as we played it 10 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. And I'm afraid that we're not going to get that because of these reasons. I know that people are going to whine, bitch, and complain for the longest time about these things, and I just really hate to see that happen. So hopefully we get the same game, but just keep an eye out that these are going to be things that people are going to have strong problems with. But who knows? Most likely we're going to end up with a different game, and that's going to be ever so slightly disappointing. This has been the top 5 things that people are likely to complain about in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. My name has been Adam Fox. I do hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button, get subscribed for more awesome gaming videos, and otherwise, I'll catch you in the next one.
Just a Give me everything